She's dead. Wait. Director Cole's voice snapped across the floor, sharp enough to make the entire office freeze. You've got 1 hour to pack, Marcus. Make it quick. The room went completely still. Even the interns stopped mid-keystroke. My name is Marcus Ellison. And in that moment, while 20 pairs of eyes lifted from their monitors, pretending not to stare, I simply nodded. Understood, I said calmly, sliding my coffee aside. Cole smirked like she'd just won something. She even leaned against my desk as I shut down my laptop. You always were too soft to survive in this world, she added, her voice syrupy sweet and loud enough to echo. The word survive lingered. I looked up at her slowly. May I ask what grounds I'm being dismissed on? You'll get the email, she shrugged. Hour's busy right now, so just go quietly. Okay, I replied, nodding again. I opened my drawer and packed my pen, my notebooks, my black leather folio. But there was one thing I didn't pack. The key to everything. Whispers followed me as I walked toward the elevator. I could feel the tension peeling off the room like static. Not a single person spoke up. Not even Mason, the same Mason I once helped cover rent. That was the moment I knew. Cole had no idea who I really was. By tomorrow morning, the boardroom would smell like scorched paper. And Cole, she'd be sitting exactly where I wanted her, right before I ripped the floor out from under her. I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from my private office, the one nobody at the company even knew existed. For 14 months, I'd been quietly collecting everything. Emails, contracts, transactions Director Cole had signed in my name. You see, I wasn't just a mid-level project manager. I was the co-founder, the silent partner, the man who invested the seed capital before my former friend, now CEO, buried me beneath stock dilution, legal fog, and fabricated performance reviews. Cole thought she erased me. She forgot who built the original codebase. I pulled up the security footage from the floor's internal server. As expected, she'd already instructed HR to mark my termination as involuntary misconduct. A strategic move, one that froze severance and blocked dispute appeals. Clever, but not clever enough. I opened my legal folder and hit send all to a confidential inbox, monitored by my attorney, and more importantly, by 2 board members who were already suspicious. The file name was simple, Project Cole's Collapse. By the time I left that night, the final piece was in motion, a shareholder meeting request citing Clause 3.17 of the operating agreement. A clause Cole herself had signed years ago. The clause that granted the founder emergency override authority. By noon the next day, her key card wouldn't work. And she still had no idea. At 9:07 a.m., I walked through the front doors of Ellison Rook Tech with the calm of a man who had already won. No one recognized me in the charcoal 3-piece suit. I passed reception just as Cole strutted out of the elevator, latte in hand, her smirk dialed up to full ego. She saw me, blinked, paused. Marcus, she asked, as if she hadn't erased me from the company portal less than 24 hours earlier. I smiled. You might want to cancel your 10 o'clock status update. Before she could respond, Richard Vance, board member and former U.S. attorney, stepped out of a side conference room. Miss Cole, he said crisply, you'll need to surrender your company-issued devices. Effective immediately, your directorship is suspended pending review. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. On what grounds? She finally managed. Richard nodded toward me. Marcus triggered Clause 3.17. Founder override. We've reviewed the documents. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the executive floor, the suite I hadn't entered in 3 years. Cole shouted something as the doors slid closed. I didn't care. The office she mocked me in yesterday was mine again. But I wasn't finished. There was still one person upstairs who had helped her forge my signature. And I was about to look him in the eye. The top floor was glass, steel, and silence. My silence. Behind the frosted walls of the corner office stood Brandon Kane, my former co-founder, and the man who had quietly sold his loyalty to the highest bidder. He looked up, stunned, mid-conversation with the CFO. Marcus, he said, half rising. I dropped the leather folio onto his desk. Inside were printed emails, signed forms, and a USB drive containing one damning video, Brandon discussing the override plan with Cole over drinks. Laughing, gloating, he paled. Is this some kind of joke? Check the timestamps, I said evenly. You filed forged documents while I was hospitalized last year. That was my mother's funeral week, Brandon. His mouth opened, then closed. His hands began to tremble. I leaned forward. You signed your career away for a temporary promotion. And now the board has all of it. Richard stepped in behind me. Mr. Kane, security will escort you out. As Brandon stood, eyes hollow, I whispered, I would have given you everything. You took it anyway. The CFO slipped out, avoiding my gaze. And then I was alone. Until I opened the bottom drawer of Brandon's desk. Inside was a blue folder. No label. Thick, expensive paper, the kind used for private contracts or contingency plans. It didn't belong there. I opened it, and froze. 6 resignation letters. Department heads. All dated for tomorrow. Each addressed to Brandon. Each thanking him for the transition opportunity, complete with payout clauses, stock transfers, timelines. He'd planned a mass exodus. A coordinated departure that would have gutted operations the morning after I reclaimed the company. Not to hurt me, to destroy it. I sat back in his chair, heart pounding. I had been so focused on the coup, on the betrayal, that I'd missed the deeper rot. This wasn't ego. This was war. I pressed the intercom. Richard, get me Ava Tran and Daniel Holloway. Emergency session. Brandon thought he could sink the ship on his way out. But I still had one card left. And it wasn't legal. It wasn't financial. It was personal. A secret from 10 years ago in Berlin. One he buried so deep he thought I'd forgotten. I hadn't. And it was time to unearth it. The boardroom fell silent as I placed an envelope on the polished mahogany table. Before we proceed, I said calmly, I'd like to revisit a decision made 10 years ago in Berlin. A specific acquisition that was quietly shut down, without explanation in the minutes. Brandon shifted in his seat. Subtle, but I saw it. I've retrieved internal emails from that time, I continued. And I've brought witness statements. Names redacted, for now. The room leaned forward. Brandon, would you like to explain why you accepted a $3.2 million bribe from the CEO of Ortal Systems to kill our merger, and rerouted the funds through your cousin's shell company? His voice cracked. That's a lie. I smiled slightly. You're right. It was. The one you told the government during their quiet inquiry in 2017. The one you settled using company shares you weren't authorized to leverage. Ava Tran, the quietest voice on our senior board, turned toward him. You dragged this company through hell, she said softly. And you thought we wouldn't find out. I stood. Brandon Whitmore, as of this moment, you are suspended from all roles pending legal proceedings. He rose too, defiant, until security entered. You can't do this, he snapped. I held his gaze. I just did. His chair was still spinning when the door slammed behind him. The silence that followed was different. Not fear, clarity. I looked at the rest of the board. We've all made compromises, I said. But some lines should never be crossed. I opened my briefcase again and removed a thinner folder. Personal. I founded Ellison & Gray when I was 28. What most of you don't know is that I built it on a promise, to my brother, a veteran who never made it home. He believed in integrity, in doing what's right, even when it hurts. I placed the folder in front of Ava. In 2 weeks, we restructure. New ethics protocols, independent oversight, no more golden parachutes for corruption. She met my eyes, then nodded. I'll stand by that. 2 others followed, but Dylan Roth, VP of Strategy, didn't move. Didn't blink. He just stared at the photo in the folder, a still frame from CCTV footage showing him and Brandon exchanging a manila envelope 3 years ago. I met his gaze. You're next, I said quietly. Don't run. That evening, I returned to my apartment. It was peaceful, quiet, but I knew it wouldn't last. The next morning, a message arrived from a blocked number. You really think this is over, Marcus? The cursor blinked beneath the words. It felt theatrical, desperate, Brandon's style, but it wasn't his number. I stepped onto the balcony. Morning traffic blurred below, unaware that another storm was forming above. I wasn't afraid. I was prepared. At exactly 10 a.m., the executive floor elevator doors opened again, this time to journalists. Cameras, microphones, flashing lights. Ava, now interim CEO, stepped forward with calm authority. Today, she began, we are releasing a full internal audit revealing 3 years of embezzlement, abuse of power, and conspiracy by former executive Brandon Chase and his allies. This company belongs to the people who built it, not those who tried to bleed it. The press erupted. Brandon would see it everywhere. So would Dylan. So would everyone who mistook my silence for weakness. They underestimated it. And silence is where the sharpest revenge takes root. Later that night, I received one final message from Ava. 4 words. It's done. We're clean. I leaned back and let the peace settle in. This time, it was real.